Good morning, everybody. Thanks for sticking around on a beautiful Sunday morning. I am one of the three members of the Safety and Security Ministry that was probably the most recent ministry formed. Rich Miller and Chuck Rich, who's here, comprises of the three of us for the ministry. Many of you know who I am and my background, but for some of the newer people here, just so you know how I got into this position, I worked 40 years with Lakewood PD in a variety of capacities, and primarily of interest during those 40 years. For more than 20 years, I worked at Bear Creek High School as the school resource officer and worked with the high school staff and the community to build a safety plan that was tailored to youth, teenage years, of course, at the high school. So I have no prior experience with houses of faith on safety, but I certainly bring a lot of ideas, and there are a lot of commonalities, although there are distinct differences between our high school population and LCM. Back in August last year in 23, Pastor Alwyn had Chuck and I kind of meet with her, and it was kind of a call to action to take a look at where we are, where we have to go with safety and security. None of us live in a cocoon, and we certainly read and see things on TV and on the internet almost every week affecting houses of worship throughout the whole spectrum of religions and beliefs. So based on both the community that is changing here and based on the world at hand, there's a call to action. So our ministry basically is going to try to implement a cohesive, meaningful, viable safety and security plan with best practices for both LCM members, visitors of LCM, and the users of the building. There's a lot of different groups here, including the preschool. It's a daunting task to start from almost scratch. And we have to set realistic priorities given on our numbers, our budget, and what we are willing to tackle. So we have come up with a list of top priorities for 2024, some of them which we've already accomplished, and I'll go over that briefly. Number one, which you will see a lot more come later this summer and in the fall and into the Christmas season, no doubt, we're going to be instituting a number of safe practices during worship times here at LCM that may become quite obvious. One of the big things that we're going to be asking is for volunteers. We have volunteer needs throughout, whether it's youth programs, but for safety and security, we're looking for volunteers that will join a safety and security team that we will train. These safety and security folks on worship Sundays, their purpose will be to be eyes and ears for our safety here and to be knowledgeable as we come into worship on a number of things. It could be weather. It could be natural disasters. It could be even threats in our community of a human nature. So if you're interested, please see Chuck or myself or Rich, and we'll be doing training later, probably early fall, to get us up and running. It's going to be visualized as being part of the Sunday ministry worship team, but they will be dedicated to security. You'll hear more about it. One of the things that you're probably going to see soon, definitely by fall, if not before, a lot of discussion, but we're going to be moving ahead on locking our exterior doors during worship time at a certain point in our worship. It's been discussed, and we'll be kind of telling you more about that. The other priority that we've come up with is replacement of our 40-year-old plus exterior doors. Many of you might know to lock doors quickly, we have to grab a screwdriver and fiddle around with these doors. We're looking to phase that practice out and have some real doors that can be locked quickly. Carl here is working on a federal grant. The application is due in June, and we will be applying as a house of worship for some funding that hopefully will cover some of the infrastructure needs, including doors and maybe film on windows that we will certainly need. Answers on that grant request will come in the fall this year, and at that point we'll know what we have to do. One of our goals in our ministry was not to keep coming to the congregation asking for money, because money can be tight and we have a lot of needs to serve our community. So hopefully this grant will be a big godsend for us. The third thing that we had to, top priority that we want to do is we want to orientate and train the congregation in a couple of emergency preparedness situations. So you may hear stuff, or we may be in some practices and drills during services later this year to face natural disasters, fire, medical situations, or even the human threat. A fourth important goal for this year was to provide consistent safety procedures for opening, closing, and working at LCM for the office staff. We want to have a consistent practice along with good infrastructure, but also good practices. And finally, a very important goal that we have set for this year was being a good, strong partner and a resource to the Green Mountain Preschool to assist them with their safety and security plan. So what have we accomplished? Well, number one, I have written a safety and security manual that does exist now. It's very short because we're going to add to it as we go. We're not going to try to write a 300-page manual that nobody reads. Right now it's 10 pages long. So if you're interested in checking it out or you haven't read it, see Mars in the office. It can also be online as well as a hard copy for those that like hard copies. There'll be updates periodically through the year. We discovered that there was a 2003 LCM safety manual that nobody knew about for 20 years, apparently, that was found on a dusty shelf. I promise you that as long as our ministry is up and running, this manual and the practices won't be gathering dust. Number two, what have we accomplished? We've met with the preschool director, and she and I and members of the ministry team have improved and updated their safety practices for all the preschool kids and for their staff. Rich Miller recently also purchased, and they are now in place in both kitchens, this floor and upstairs, fire blankets in case there's a fire that breaks out while cooking. So familiarize yourself if you're one of those people that work in the kitchen. I haven't been in there, so I can't tell you where it's at. First aid kits have been updated. We noticed there was a lot of things from like 2006, 1990s. It was time to update those. And then finally, we did have a Homeland Security visit, and we will have a Lakewood PD visit sometime this year to give us advice on how to improve our safety and security here. Finally, our future goals and direction with the ministry will be to secure grant money for doors and security film on selected windows, improve our surveillance equipment for our office staff, exterior lighting so that parking lots are better lit and entrances. And hopefully with this grant, some of that can be met. We also want to assist the office staff with security needs during their work week and to meet many of their concerns. And we want to review tenant and user contract terms so that we know we have people that are using this building that are safe and we have a good assurance that our preschool kids that are also using this building during the weekdays are safe as well. And finally, as much as we've already worked with Greenmount Preschool, they are expanding come August. So they will be using more of the upstairs. They have more space that they have worked out with us, and therefore we'll have more challenges. I think now instead of around, I'm thinking about 35 kids, it's going to be up somewhere around 70 or 75 kids. So we've got our work cut out, but we're gonna work with the staff there. So that is essentially what we've done since August. And I encourage you, if you have any immediate questions now, I can get back to you, or if I can try to answer them right now. There are so many things that we need to tackle, and we have to do it in a systematic way where we're not scatterbrained trying to accomplish 150 things. We decide to pick a half dozen things or so and try to do it well. So, any questions? Thank you, Don.
Thank you, John.
Sure.
So there's a lot going on behind the scenes. Thank you, John. Regarding a lot going on, there are reports here in your packet from